Monday of the second week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the first book of Samuel. Samuel said to Saul, "Stop, let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night." Saul replied, "Speak." Samuel then said, "Though little in your own esteem, are you not leader of the tribes of Israel? The Lord anointed you king of Israel and sent you on a mission, saying, 'Go and put the sinful Amalekites under a ban of destruction. Fight against them until you have exterminated them.' Why then have you disobeyed the Lord? You have pounced on the spoil, thus displeasing the Lord." Saul answered Samuel, "I did indeed obey the Lord and fulfill the mission on which the Lord sent me. I have brought back Agag, and I have destroyed Amalek under the ban. But from the spoil the men took sheep and oxen, the best of what had been banned, to sacrifice to the Lord their God in Gilgal." But Samuel said, "Does the Lord so delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obedience to the command of the Lord? Obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission than the fat of rams. For a sin like divination is rebellion, and presumption is the crime of idolatry. Because you have rejected the command of the Lord, he too has rejected you as ruler." The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, "To the upright I will show the saving power of God." Not for your sacrifices do I rebuke you, for your burnt offerings are before me always. I take from your house no bullock, no goats out of your fold. To the upright I will show the saving power of God. Why do you recite my statutes and profess my covenant with your mouth, though you hate discipline and cast my words behind you? To the upright I will show the saving power of God. When you do these things, shall I be deaf to it? Or do you think that I am like yourself? I will correct you by drawing them up before your eyes. He that offers praise as a sacrifice glorifies me, and to him that goes the right way I will show the salvation of God. To the upright I will show the saving power of God.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. The disciples of John and of the Pharisees were accustomed to fast. People came to Jesus and objected, "Why do the disciples of John and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" Jesus answered them, "Can the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. But the days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast on that day. No one sews a piece of unshrunken cloth on an old cloak. If he does, its fullness pulls away, the new from the old, and the tear gets worse. Likewise, no one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the skins are ruined. Rather, new wine is poured into fresh wineskins." The Gospel of the Lord.
January 18th, Monday of the second week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from 1 Samuel 15, 16 to 23. Samuel is confronting Saul and accusing him of not being faithful to what the Lord has ordered him to do. Saul had gone out with his army in battle against Amalek, and he was supposed to put them under the ban. Put him under the ban means to kill everybody, from the youngest to the oldest, and even kill the animals. What has Saul done? He's taken the king and brought him back, possibly for a ransom, and also his men have taken things that should have been killed under the ban, to offer as a sacrifice to the Lord. Samuel sees through this and says, that's not right. You were ordered to do something. Obedience is more important than all the sacrifices you can offer. You should have done it. Because you didn't do it, then you are going to be rejected by the Lord. Now there are 2 episodes in which Samuel proclaims the rejection of the Lord against Saul. And it's very odd because it's 2 little things, and there even could be a reasonable defense for why Saul did these things. Nevertheless, God puts him on his list, his no-no list. Whereas David does many more serious things, and he's forgiven by God. Why this different treatment? This is a theological reflection that's going on within Israel. Why is it that one person gets treated one way and the other person gets treated another? God loves everybody, but he loves us in a different way. Parents know that when they think of how they treat their children. One child needs more attention, one child needs hands off, etc. God does the same with us. And our response has to be acceptance of the way that God treats us. Not jealousy at the fact that the other people seem to be walking in clover while we get all the dirty jobs. We have to accept the way God is treating us and embrace it. That is not easy because so often we feel as if we're being cheated. So often we see other people who get away with murder. It's none of our business. We have to trust in the way God is treating us. Remember, this is the ultimate sin of Cain and Abel. Cain could not accept the fact that Abel's sacrifice was accepted while his was not. And it doesn't say that Abel offered a better sacrifice. It's simply that his sacrifice was accepted. The sin of Cain was not what he offered. The sin of Cain was that he was jealous, and he killed his brother because of that jealousy. One of the greatest lessons in the spiritual life is surrender to God's will, and that is never easy. But as we do it more and more, we find a great peace, because we're no longer filled with resentment. We're no longer thinking of what could be, but rather celebrating what is. The Gospel is from Mark 2:18-22. People come to Jesus and ask why the disciples of John and the Pharisees fast when his disciples don't. In his response, you can't fast while the bridegroom's with you. He considers himself to be the bridegroom. The disciples can't fast because he's there, but when he'll be gone, then they can fast. This gives one of the spiritual theological reasons for fasting. It's a ritual act to mourn the death of our beloved. That's why we fast on Ash Wednesday. That's why we fast on Good Friday. It's a ritual act of mourning, and this is still done in a lot of cultures where when somebody dies, they go through a period of ritual mourning. The Jewish people, they cover their mirrors, they don't put on makeup for that period of mourning. This is what we do when we fast. Now there's other reasons for fasting too, to teach us discipline, to learn how to say no to certain things, to put food in its proper perspective, to be in solidarity with those who don't have enough to eat. But Jesus is giving us an alternate answer, which could also be understood. And then he has 2 sayings. You don't mix unshrunken cloth with an old cloak. You don't put new wine in old wineskins. Technically, these sayings have nothing to do with fasting. It's possible that these were 2 unconnected sayings that Mark didn't know when Jesus said, and he puts them in this place because at weddings you wear new clothes, you drink wine. And he's simply tacking this on. It's the idea of not mixing the old with the new. And that was very common in Jewish teaching. You don't mix things. You don't plant 2 crops in the same field. You don't mix 2 types of cloth in the same garment. It probably dates back to the idea of not mixing with the pagans, that they should remain separate, a holy people dedicated to the Lord. And may God bless us.